and Harvey laid the glories of the Constance before them without a word. They took them in equal silence stamped leather, silver door handles and rails, cut velvet, plate glass, nickel, bronze, hammered iron, and the rare woods of the continent inlaid. "I told you," said Harvey. "I told you." This was his crowning revenge, and a most ample one. Mrs. Cheyne decreed a meal, and that nothing might be lacking to the tale Long Jack told afterwards in his boarding house, she waited on them herself. Men who are accustomed to eat at tiny tables in howling gales have curiously neat and finished table manners, but Mrs. Cheyne, who did not know this, was surprised. She longed to have Manuel for a butler, so silently and easily did he comport himself among the frail glassware and dainty silver. Tom Platt remembered great days on the Ohio and the manners of foreign potentates who dined with the officers, and Long Jack, being Irish, supplied the small talk till all were at their ease. In the We're Here's cabin the fathers took stock of each other behind their cigars. Cheyne knew well enough when he dealt with a man to whom he could not offer money. Equally well he knew that no money could pay for what Disko had done. He kept his own counsel, and waited for an opening.
"I haven't done anything to your boy, or for your boy, except make him work a piece and learn him how to handle the hog yoke," said Disko. "He is twice my boy's head for figures."
"By the way," Cheyne answered casually, "what do you calculate to make of your boy?" Disko removed his cigar, and waved it comprehensively round the cabin.
"Dan's just plain boy, and he don't allow me to do any of his thinkin'. He'll have this able little packet when I'm laid by. He ain't nowise anxious to quit the business. I know that."
Ever been west, Mr. Troop?"
"Been as far as New York once in a boat. I've no use for railroads. No more has Dan. Salt water's good enough for the troops. I've been most everywhere, in the natural way, of course."
"I can give him all the salt water he's likely to need, till he's a skipper."
"How's that? I thought you was a kinder railroad king. Harve told me so when I was mistook in my jedgments."
"We're all apt to be mistaken. I fancied perhaps you might know I own a line of tea clippers, San Francisco to Yokohama, 6 of 'em, iron built, about 1,780 tons apiece."
"Blame that boy! He never told. I'd 'a' listened to that, instead of his truck about railroads and pony carriages."
"He didn't know."
"Little thing like that slipped his mind, I guess."
"No, I only took hold of the Blue M freighters, Morgan and McQuade's old line, this summer." Disko collapsed where he sat, beside the stove.
"Great Caesar Almighty! I mistrust I've been fooled from one end to the other. Why, Phil Airheart he went from this very town 6 year back. No, 7. And he's mate on the San Jose now. 26 days was her time out. His sister she's livin' here yet, and she reads his letters to my woman. And you own the Blue M freighters?"
Cheyne nodded.
"If I'd 'a' known that, I'd 'a' jerked the We're Here back to port all standin' on the word."
"Perhaps that wouldn't have been so good for Harvey."
"If I'd only known. If he'd only said about the cussed line, I'd have understood. I'd never stand on my own jedgments again. Never. They're well found packets. Phil Airheart he says so."
"I'm glad to have a recommend from that quarter. Airhart's skipper of the San Jose now. What I was getting at is to know whether you'd lend me Dan for a year or two, and we'll see if we can't make a mate of him. Would you trust him to Airheart?"
"It's a risk taking a raw boy."
"I know a man who did more for me."
"That's different. Look at here now. I ain't recommendin' Dan special because he's my own flesh and blood. I know bank ways ain't clipper ways, but he ain't much to learn. Steer he can, no boy better, if I say it, and the rest is in our blood and get. but I wish he weren't so cussed weak on navigation."
"Airheart will attend to that. He'll ship as a boy for a voyage or two, and then we can put him in the way of doing better. Suppose you take him in hand this winter, and I'll send for him early in the spring. I know the Pacific's a long ways off."
"Pshaw! We troops, livin' and dead, are all around the earth and the seas thereof."
"But I want you to understand, and I mean this. Any time you think you'd like to see him, tell me, and I'll attend to the transportation. 'Twon't cost you a cent."
"If you'll walk a piece with me, we'll go to my house and talk this to my woman. I've been so crazy mistook in all my jedgments, it don't seem to me this was like to be real."
They went over to Troop's $1,800 blue-trimmed white house, with a retired dory full of nasturtiums in the front yard and a shuttered parlor that was a museum of oversea plunder. There sat a large woman, silent and grave, with the dim eyes of those who look long to sea for the return of their beloved. Cheyne addressed himself to her, and she gave consent wearily. "We lose 100 a year from Gloucester only, Mr. Cheyne," she said. "100 boys and men, and I've come so as to hate the sea as if 'twas alive and listenin'. God never made it for humans to anchor on. These packets o' yours, they go straight out, I take it, and straight home again?" "As straight as the winds let 'em, and I give a bonus for record passages. Tea don't improve by being at sea." "When he was little he used to play at keeping store, and I had hopes he might follow that up. But soon as he could paddle a dory I knew that were going to be denied me."
"They're square riggers, Mother, iron built and well found. Remember what Phil's sister reads you when she gets his letters?"
"I've never known as Phil told lies, but he's too venturesome, like most of 'em that use the sea. If Dan sees fit, Mr. Cheyne, he can go, for all of me."
"She just despises the ocean," Disko explained, "and I don't know how to act polite, I guess, or I'd thank you better."
"My father, my own eldest brother, 2 nephews, and my second sister's man," she said, dropping her head on her hand. "Would you care for any one that took all those?" Cheyne was relieved when Dan turned up, and accepted with more delight than he was able to put into words. Indeed, the offer meant a plain and sure road to all desirable things, but Dan thought most of commanding watch on broad decks and looking into far-away harbors. Mrs. Cheyne had spoken privately to the unaccountable Manuel in the matter of Harvey's rescue. He seemed to have no desire for money. Pressed hard, he said that he would take $5, because he wanted to buy something for a girl. Otherwise, "How shall I take money when I make so easy my eats and smokes? You will give a some if I like or no. Eh, what? Then you shall give a me money, but not that way. You shall give all you can think." He introduced her to a snuffy Portuguese priest with a list of semi-destitute widows as long as his cassock. As a strict Unitarian, Mrs. Cheyne could not sympathize with the creed, but she ended by respecting the brown, voluble little man. Manuel, faithful son of the Church, appropriated all the blessings showered on her for her charity. "That letta me out," said he. "I have now ver good absolutions for 6 months." And he strolled forth to get a handkerchief for the girl of the hour and to break the hearts of all the others. Salters went west for a season with Penn, and left no address behind. He had a dread that these millionary people, with wasteful private cars, might take undue interest in his companion. It was better to visit inland relatives till the coast was clear. "Never you'll be adopted by rich folk, Penn," he said in the cars, "or I'll take and break this checkerboard over your head. If you forget your name again, which is Pratt, you remember you belong with Salter's troop, and set down right where you are till I come fer you. Don't go taggin' around after them whose eyes bung out with fatness accordin'